Hey guys, welcome back. This is book 3. It's A Dog's Life. I'm so excited to read this book. Chapter 1, The End of the World. It's me again, Hank the cow dog. One morning around 10 o'clock, Drover brought me some incredible news. He said the world was coming to an end. I had gotten in from work around daylight, washed up in the septic tank, of course, and hit my gunny sack just as the sun peeked over the big cottonwood tree down by the creek. It had been a slow night, but still I was bushed. Must have been the accumulation of a long night. This, in the security work, it begins to wear on a guy after a while. I had given Drover the night off, so by the time I came dragging in, he was all fresh and ready to go exploring or some such foolishness. He asked if I wanted to go with him. No, sir, I certainly don't, and here's the rest of it. I plan to be sound asleep when the mailman comes by. You get your little self up there by the mailbox and give him a good barking. You got that? The smile left his face. Okay, Hank, but I sure did want to go exploring. That exploring can keep for another day, son. I scratched my gunny sack until it was fluffed up just the way I like it, and then I flopped down. What a beautiful feeling. We tend to, in this business, first, Drover, and then, if there's time, we tend to pleasure. Why do I have to keep telling you this? I don't know, Hank. I forget things. I looked at the runt and shook my head. You forget things? How can you forget the mailman comes by here every day at the same time? How can you forget that one of our most important jobs is to bark at him? How can you forget that you're wasting my time and I'm ready to go to sleep? I noticed that he was staring at my ear. What are you staring at? You got 3 fleas on your ear. They were coming out of my bed. Darn gunny sack was getting riper and needed to be changed. You'd think those cowboys would notice that. And here is the picture. Those cowboys, they would notice something like that and give me a fresh cake sack every 6 months or so. But they can sell them back to the co-op for a nickel apiece, and that sort of puts a price on my services. You never really know what these ranch folks do with their money until it involves nickels and dimes. Give the head of ranch security a 5-cent bed every 6 months. No siree, not with cattle prices the way they are. That new gunny sack just might take the ranch down into bankruptcy. So if you want to know why my bed was full of fleas, there's your answer. It had nothing whatsoever to do with my personal hygiene. I bathe in the sewer every night. I make a sincere effort to keep the sandburrs out of my tail, and I scratch every flea that shows up on myself. In other words, I'm one of the cleanest dogs I've ever met, except for Beulah the collie. Oh, my heart just starts whamming around in my chest. How could she love that bird dog when she could have me? What did Plato have that I didn't have? I'll answer that question. Plato was so homey, so pitiful, so incompetent that Beulah felt sorry for him. That's all I can figure out. I mean, in a contest of looks, brains, courage, brute strength, or anything else you'd want to mention, Plato came in dead last. How did I get started on Beulah? I don't know. I can't let myself do that. What the heck was I talking about? I can't remember. Oh, okay, I've got it now. Fleas. I was discussing fleas. It doesn't matter how careful you are with your personal hygiene on this ranch. The executives are too tight with their money to get me in bed every 6 months or so. You're going to, by George, come up with fleas. And Drover was correct in saying that I had 3 of those little devils crawling around on my ear. Now, what was I to do? I got my hind leg up there and I started kicking those fleas. And fellers, I wouldn't want to be the flea in this situation because my hind leg was powerful and my claws are just deadly on those fleas. I think you got them, said Drover. I hope they don't get into my bed. Son, when these dogs take after fleas, it needs more than a bed. It needs a cemetery, and that goes for larger animals too. Now, I'm going to bed. Tell me what your assignment is. Well, let's see. Mailman, bark. He shook his head. Bark at, mailman, bark at the mailman. Very good, Drover. Now, keep saying that to yourself. Run on down to the road and keep saying to yourself, bark at the mailman, bark at the mailman. Okay, Hank, bark at the mailman, bark at the mailman. And don't stop. Okay, Hank, how come we have to bark at the mailman? I stared at him. Are you asking me why we bark at the mailman? Yeah, if he brings the mail, how come we bark at him? Holy cats, Drover, at your age you're still asking stupid questions like that? Son, if you don't know the answer by this time, it wouldn't do any good for me to tell you. Now, go on before I lose my temper. Okay, Hank, bark at the mailman, bark at the mailman. And off he went to the mailbox. I settled into my gunny sack and released my grip on the world. But you know what? I couldn't fall asleep for a long time because I kept asking myself, why do we bark at the mailman? If you look at the certain light, it really doesn't make any sense. As far back as I can remember, no mailman has ever killed a chicken, robbed a nest, broke into a sack of feed, or done any other thing worse than deliver mail. But that right there is one of the primary dangers of having an active superior type of intelligence. On one hand, it's necessary for security work, and on the other hand, it can come up with foolish questions. Ma used to say that back in the beginning of time, God built 1,000 questions, but only 250 answers. So there you go. Why do we bark at the mailman? Because by George, cow dogs have always barked at the mailman, and they always will. And with that out of the way, I went to sleep. It was a wonderful, delicious, I love sleep. Nothing gives me more pleasure than to lie there with my paws in the air and dream. That makes me twitch. I don't know what makes twitching dreams special, but they're the very best kind. So there I was, twitching and rolling my eyes and at peace with the world, dreaming of fresh, bloody bones and, well, Beulah, when all at once I heard a high-pitched squeal. Hank! Oh, Hank, it's awful! Hank, wake up! I'm scared! I can't stand it! Wake up! One eye popped open. It was a short-haired, stub-tailed white dog, and he was jumping up and down. I said, what? My other eye slid open. These are my fresh bloody bones, and next week's an entirely different matter. He twisted his head and looked at me. What are you talking about, Hank? I pushed myself up and staggered over against the gas tank. My head began to clear. What's the meaning of this? The meaning of what, Hank? The meaning of, I don't know, whatever it is that we're talking about. You mean bloody bones? Okay, stop right there. Whose bones and why are they bloody? Try to remember every detail. Reconstruct the scene of the crime, just as you saw it. So far, we've got one clue. The bones are bloody. What kind of bones were they? Fresh bloody bones? Very good. There are 2 clues. They're fresh and they're bloody. Now, you've got to concentrate. Whose bones were they? Drover rolled his eyes around. I could tell he was trying to concentrate. I guess they're yours, Hank. I haven't seen them yet. What are you talking about? Well, I'm not sure. Then what is the meaning of this conversation? Why am I standing here? Oh, no, Hank. Maybe you better sit down. I sat down and took a deep breath. Drover, I was asleep and you woke me up. Why did you wake me up? Oh, Hank, I just heard the awful news. I thought you ought to know. What awful news? The little mutt was shivering all over by this time. Oh, Hank, the world's going to come to an end tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Huh? The world? 3 o'clock? That's impossible. No, it's true. I know it's true. Oh, I'm scared, Hank. This has never happened to me before. Just then, Sally Mae came out of the house, jumped in her car, and went roaring out of the driveway, throwing up gravel and dust. She turned left at the county road and headed west toward town. Drover's eyes got as big as plates. There, you see? She must have heard the news, too. Well, this was, shall we say, shocking. We didn't have much time to prepare. Furthermore, how do you prepare for the end of the world? As I was sifting through the various options, I heard a commotion up at the house. It was Pete the barn cat, and he was jumping in the air and rolling around on the ground and yowling. It appeared that he had taken to the fits. Come on, Drover, we better check this out. We ran up the hill. Something terrible was about to happen on this ranch, and I had to figure out what it was. And tomorrow we are going to read Chapter 2, The Thick Plottins. See you then.